Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ful-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me today is a whole team, which is great to see. AJ, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. And yourselves?
Not too bad, mate. Drew, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you here, mate. Good to see you. And Mozza, how you doing, buddy?
I'm very well. I just want to know, Ash, have you asked Calvin Bassey to marry you yet?
No, but I was very close to sending him a private message after the game on Saturday because goal scorer has never been more popular in my house. Put it like that. But that is 100% sure. Talking about the game on Saturday, obviously we're here to review the game on Saturday. You know, really good result at home against a very difficult team to play, Forest. You know, we've all watched in admiration the season they've had so far. Bit confused on Saturday with the quality they had on the pitch and where they are in the league. You know, but after the week they had, it's not too much of a surprise. Overall, a very, very good game at the Cottage on Saturday from Fulham, and barring some absolutely excellent goalkeeping from Forest's Sells, the game could have been 5-1 easy. So, you know, we'll get into that and we'll break that down now. AJ, I'm going to come to you, mate. I'm going to start with the question we always start with. Starting 11 on Saturday, were you happy with it? Was there anything you would have changed with it? It's good to go as it was.
In hindsight, I'm happy with it, but that's kind of obvious. Pre-kickoff, seeing ESR continue to get starts seemed a bit of a myth to me, but I can't really fault him now. Outside of that, it was very much what I expected.
Yeah, obviously we go into the game on Saturday making 10 changes from the game against Wigan last week. Again, no real shock to that after making 10 changes to go into that game and back to how it was with the team that pretty deserved of probably to restart after the game that we had at St James's Park the week beforehand in the league. Drew, you were at the game on Saturday. Brilliant game of football. You know, it's really hard. It's one of those ones where it's really, really hard for us to pick out a Fulham performance, which is probably the best. But we'll start with the player that everyone's raving about the most, which is Adama Traore. He was brilliant on Saturday, wasn't he? It's one of those games where, you know, when he's on it and he's really, really on it, like he was on Saturday, he's frightening. I wouldn't want to be defending against him. What did you feel? How did you feel he played on Saturday?
Same as everyone else. I thought he was excellent. I mean, I mean, we've said it before. He gives us something that no one else does. I mean, the pace and the power. I mean, it was exceptional, and it was quite interesting speaking to Forest fans. They lamented the fact that he suddenly found out how to cross, because the rest of his game is pretty good. I mean, one of the biggest things he actually got a round of applause from his own teammates is when he chased back and dispossessed a Forest player as they were making a break, and he must have covered about 40 yards, and he went deep into our half, and even Anderson gave him a high five. I mean, his work rate was exceptional, and he was the headline player, even though statistically Sasa Lukic was like a 10 out of 10. That's how good he was. Yeah, he was a difference maker. He was a difference maker. He did to Forest what some of us were concerned Elanga and Hudson-Odoi were going to do to us. But he did it on his own. He didn't need two wingers.
Yeah, he was excellent. He was absolutely excellent. You know, let's look at it and the open bit of play. Before we even scored, he put a couple of really, really good crosses in, some lovely bit of play on the wing. And we know that he had Nico Williams on toast. Like, literally every time he got the ball, he just had him just every single time. And we all know Nico Williams from his time at Fulham. He's not a slouch. He's not slow. He's usually really good at reading the game as well. But Adama just had him on Saturday, and you know the work for the goal itself is absolutely superb. I don't know if any of you have seen the video that's been going around on social media. I think every single player, barring Sanderberg, touched the ball in that build up to that goal. It went forward and back and forward again, obviously, naturally, because it's a Fulham attack. But when it gets to Adama, he sort of knocks the ball out wide past Nico, Williams, and then puts a lovely cross in. And for once, Emil Smith Rowe does what we've all been calling for him to do for absolutely ages, and that's follow the striker in and be the second striker. Follow the ball back post when it's there. He does it. Beautiful ball to him. Good header from him, and he takes the goal really well. Mozza, watching the goal, it's really great to see us score goals like that because it's nice free-flowing football. How impressed were you with the goal, mate?
Utterly impressed. Yeah, like we've just been saying, great crossing from Adama, lovely assist for him, and also, yeah, what a shot for ESR to actually get one in the back of the net. Since when was the last time? A few games ago, was it? I can't remember who we were playing. Was it Leicester? I think away.
Leicester, yeah.
So hasn't done much since then. Obviously, might not be entirely fair because it's only been a few weeks, I guess. Let's hope, as we said when he got that goal against Leicester, it can build his confidence. But I've got to be entirely honest. When I saw the starting lineup, he was the only player that made my heart sink, and that is purely just out of lack of belief or my lack of confidence in him. But I think that pretty much echoes the way he's been playing himself. So, what was that? Was it his fifth or sixth goal for us this season? I think. Sorry, I can't remember which one of the two. But he's tallying up a bit. So let's hope he can get a few more. But yeah, great goal overall. Great for him to get the header on it. In the aerial attack. So, yeah, and 15 minutes in as well. Who would have thought it?
2 goals, 4
Well,
assists.
let's have a quick talk about ESL. Let's have a quick talk about. Let's have a quick talk. There you go. Let's have a quick talk about ESR because AJ, you're one of the people that watch him quite regularly every week. You're usually quick to sort of make the comment on him. You said yourself at the beginning you weren't sure about him being in the starting lineup. I thought he had a really good game on Saturday. I thought that we've seen something from him on Saturday we haven't seen in a long time, which isn't just that he looked like he was more confident. He looked like he was more confident on the ball. He looked like he was a bit more clued up off of the ball, and he had a bit more pep like in his step. He had a little bit more of something about him during the game. Would you agree with that, AJ, or do you think that for the first time in a long time, he looked like he not only deserved to be in the starting lineup, but it was more than a merit for his position?
Personally, I wouldn't go that far. I think he had a good enough performance to warrant his place in the lineup, and his goal solidified that. He did really well for a change at attacking the box and being a sort of second striker almost, which was great to see from him. And his work rate off the ball was tremendously improved from what we've seen in previous examples. But I wouldn't go as far to say as he was a shining light amongst the team and warranted any man of the match consideration. I think what we saw from him is what we should expect from him as almost a minimum, excluding the goal. I'm not expecting him to score every game by any means, but that sort of performance for the money we paid for him is what I would be inclined to expect from him most weeks. I think is fair to say, but it was a much improved performance. I will give him that without any shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. We sort of then after scoring, we looked really comfortable. Forest weren't really offering much in terms of going forward. I think that's mainly because Sander Berg and Sasha Lukic on Saturday were superb. We said it in the preview of the game, that those two were really going to have a good game in order to control the midfield, in order to make sure that we didn't have to deal too much with Forest press. Forest didn't really offer much, and then when their goal come about, there was more than a hint of luck involved with the goal that they scored. The ball booted forward, hits Chris Wood on the backside for one. He didn't know where it was to control it. Sort of it sits up nicely for him. Two covering defenders, one slips over, the other one obviously drops to try and defend the shot that's coming in. It hits him, and then because it hits him, it beats the keeper. It's a frustrating goal to concede because Forest didn't deserve to score at that point. You can tell why Chris Wood scored at 18 goals now this season if he's putting opportunities like that away. But my God, there was more than a hint of luck in that goal being conceded, in the sense of, we saw it ourselves in the second half when the ball hit a player in the backside. It didn't necessarily fall at his feet like it did when it hit Iwobi's when it hit Iwobi. But that is the sort of thing we're dealing with going into the half time of the game. It's 1-1. I don't know about you, Drew. I was really frustrated about it being 1-1. We should have been 2 or 3 goals clear at that point. Matt Sells had made 3 or 4 outstanding saves in that first half alone. We're not going to talk about the saves he makes in the second half just yet. How did you feel going in at half time? Were you frustrated at it being 1-1, or were you content because we'd shown a really good performance?
I don't think content is the right word. I think that once again, Fulham didn't capitalise when they were on top. I fully accept what you're saying about Matt Sells. I mean, he was the reason that Forest only lost 2-1. But for the possession we had, and I don't know what the stats were at half time, but at the end of the game, we'd had 20 shots. We should have been 2-3 up without breaking sweat. And it did make you wonder, bearing in mind how much luck Forest had in terms of their goal and how well their goalkeeper was playing. I'm not saying I sat there and thought we were going to lose, but we're all Fulham fans. We know how it goes. We know how it goes. And I thought there were more goals in it. I thought Chris Wood took his goal really well, and what he showed was what I talked about in the preview show. He showed the benefit of a more mature, older, more experienced striker because he took his time. And Ash, you're quite right. He got lucky with the deflection, but he took his time and he looked to place his shot. Now, if it hadn't got the deflection, Leno would have got there, but it was still going in the right direction. But we get to half time and I'm sitting there thinking, I'll tell you what worried me is how bad Forest were.
Mm-hmm.
That's what worried me because I thought to myself, do you boys remember the Newcastle game when we all couldn't believe how atrocious they were in the first half? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And we were expecting a reaction and we got it straight after half time. That's what concerned me. That's what concerned me because Ash, you're quite right. I mean, there was a lot made in the previous show about their wingers, but I said my concern was that I'm not sure our fullbacks, especially Castagna, could handle them one-on-one. So therefore, we need to win the midfield and keep Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White quiet. And you've already made the point about how good Lukic, who everyone adores, and Sander Berg just gets better every week, how important they were because they provided the basis upon which everything we did offensively. But no, I wasn't content. I wasn't worried. I was annoyed because every one of us at some point during the season has made the point about Fulham not capitalising when they're on top. It just gets, and it's a regular thing. It's not like that one-off. Like the other pet peeve of mine, and I'm sorry to our regular viewers, we don't commit enough people into the box.
No, we don't.
We just don't. And you find Raul pulling out wide, trying to make runs, and it leaves us completely shallow in the box, which is why ESR getting ahead of the ball was so important on Saturday. I wasn't content. Was I worried? I was unsure. Because I just didn't know if Forest could be so bad again.
Yeah,
that's what concerned me. And to be fair to them, and I know we'll get to it, they did look a lot better when Callum Hudson-Odoi came on because it gave them more balance down both wings. But yeah, I mean, my real gripe was, like I said, at the risk of repetition, when we were on top, Ash. When we're on top, we just don't capitalise.
Yeah.
Sorry, AJ, go on.
I was going to say, to get into that and to answer your question from earlier, we had 65% possession, an XG of 1.16 with 11 shots and 5 on target in the first half versus 35% possession and expected goals of 0.18, which they scored from 2 total shots, 1 on target.
But AJ, you're out of all of us. I mean, you'll pull up the stats, but you could go through, I don't know how many, probably 5, 6, 7, 8 games this season where there's been similar situations. We could all
Absolutely.
Talk about games where we've been on top. You boys had to endure the West Ham debacle at home.
Oh.
I travelled all the way to bloody Goodison Park.
Yeah.
So there is games, and it's just we do it. We do it every time. We do it. We never capitalise when we're on top. Anyway, sorry, Ash, but it just does.
No, it's absolutely fine. If anyone who's not a Fulham fan watching this ever wants to know what it's the psyche of a Fulham fan, the last 3 minutes of Drew is sums it up exactly, because in a game where we look comfortable and we look like we were the most dangerous team by a long shot, every single one of us had that exact same thought in our head at half time. We've been good, but we will mess this up. And how are Forest going to attack us? And to be fair, Forest did come out a little bit better in the second half, but we came out just as good as we were in that first half. We look way more fluid going forward. We look great on both wings. I will say, I thought Timmy Castagna and Joa both had really good games on Saturday, considering how concerned we were before the game. Yes, that changed slightly when Callum Hudson-Odoi came on, because he was a completely different prospect running at Timmy Castagna. But I thought he had a really good game. He helped cover and push for Adama to push forward as much as he was. I thought Adama going forward was great again. Started that second half. And I thought Anthony Robinson was really good going forward. We had a really good levels of link-up play on both our wings, especially at the start of that second half, where we had 3 or 4 corners in the space of 10 minutes that were pretty much all came from balls coming out wide, shots coming in, and then a shot actually being taken, which was nice to see. What also was good to see on Saturday, which is one of the things we want to talk about, because we scored from one of them, is it looks like Fulham have been working on set pieces. I don't know if it's because Andreas Pereira wasn't on the pitch and Lukic was taking the corners, right? But you could genuinely see there had been a lot of work done on our set play routines. There was a lot of discussion in the box before each one was going up. There was secret arm signals and crossed arms and arms up in the air, but all over the shop. There was clear signals.
Which number from Anderson of which set piece tactic we're going to go with? Number 5 this time. Number 5.
Yeah, so there was some clear work done, and obviously, the second goal comes from one of those where, it's a really good corner in by Lukic, a really good header by Raul, who is clearly not shooting. You can tell he was trying to head it towards the back post, and Bassi, I would say, did a really good job to peel off from a defender to make space to header, but there was no defender. It was maybe a little bit too easy for Calvin Bassi, that header, who celebrated that goal like he got lucky on Valentine's Day. Let's be honest.
20 separate celebrations.
He did about 45 celebrations. Yep. As much as I love Calvin, you got to pick one, mate. Stick to it. Just calm down a little. Make it look like you have scored a professional goal before. But it's outstanding work from us, especially from set pieces. Mozza, you often moan about our set pieces and how weak they are. Was it good for us, one, to actually score from a corner? Potentially might be our first goal from a corner this season. I don't remember the last time we scored from one.
Andreas,
was it nice?
Yeah.
Was it nice to see that there was actually looked like there was some plan rather than just hitting the ball in the box and hoping someone gets on the end of it?
Well, yeah, and as you've just been talking about, I'd love to know, who in the coaching staff, if anyone's put their foot down and gone, right, lads, this is what we're going to do. This is the tactics. We're going to change it. It's a bit of a catch-22, really, because I think, AJ, you just mentioned the last time we scored from a corner. I think it was Andreas. I can't remember who it was against, but it was fairly recent. Is that right?
Yeah, Andreas Raul header from the near post, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So, and ironic's not the right word, but I think Andreas is an awful corner taker. Barely ever beats the first man, and surely that should be rule 101. Unless you've got a really good tactic in place, you're not going to beat the first man. If you're going to do a short corner, then you make it make sense, is my point. But anyway, so yes, it was very pleasing to see this one come in, and as you said, Raul getting up there in the air once again, aerial. And yes, look, maybe Bassi was a little bit lucky, but he was still there to knock it in. Yeah, I want to see more of that, and why not? And I know we all give Pereira stick. I'm probably a little bit softer on him, to be honest. You know, he's got great hair, a bit like me, same sort of colour. So, you know, I think he's just followed me on Instagram, so that's where he probably gets his style from, not his PR team. But anyway, yeah, I don't want Pereira taking any more corners.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the rest of the game, because you know we can sum up the rest of the game quite fairly. I know that Forest made a couple of subs, and Callum Hudson-Odoi was one of those, and he came on and he changed their attacking format and the way they were playing. But I still was quite confident in the fact that we were doing really, really well defensively, and we were still bombing forward and trying to, you know, score more. You know, we said it earlier on in the show that if it wasn't for Matt Sells, the game would have finished 4-5-1 easily. He made a couple of outstanding saves. You know, the volley from Traore, that, you know, if he just hit it anywhere in the goal, it was a goal. He just managed to hit it exactly where he was. Late on, he makes a good double save as well, Matt Sells. And then there's obviously, after Willian had come on and Andres Pereira come on, we've seen some really nice intricate play in the corner. You know, we get the ball in the box. There's a nice cutback, and then another back heel by Willian to Muniz, who has a shot which is saved. I know there's some people criticising Muniz for taking the shot on rather than passing the ball out to Cess. You know, I don't really blame myself personally. I don't really blame Muniz for taking the shot there. One as the striker, and two because it was all pretty quick. You know, and there was a lot going on. Yes, in hindsight, he probably should have passed the ball out to Cess, and we all have loved to see Cess score, you know, a last minute goal to make it clear. But you know, ultimately for the rest of the game, Fulham were completely on top, and it was only because of Matt Sells that, you know, the game didn't finish 4-5-1, as we say. You know, AJ, just a quick one from you, mate. Just a quick word on seeing Willian back, because I know there's a lot of people that were a bit annoyed that he was the only January transfer to come in. But he looked pretty impressive when he came on Saturday. You know, how do you feel about him being back in a Fulham shirt and, you know, doing the business for the Samba Whites?
Yeah, I mean, he could have scored 5 in his 5-minute cameo, and I still would have been annoyed at the transfer window. They're not. There's no correlation there, unfortunately. But no, he was exceptional from the minute he entered the pitch. It looked like we were playing a completely different style of football, and fuck me, was it enjoying to watch. Pardon the language, you might need to beep that one out. But it was truly tremendously beautiful. Like one touch passing, pass and move, quick overlaps, players knowing where each other are going to be without thinking about it. Quite literally, if Muniz wasn't a striker and didn't fancy himself at that point, we would have seen a Sessegnon goal from one of the most beautiful pieces of football I've seen in a long, long time from Fulham. And that's saying something, because we play pretty good football anyway. It was just the quick one-touch moving, back heels, flicks, tricks, just completely confident domination of the ball, which is saying something, because Nottingham Forest had more possession of the ball in the second half than we did. So when Willian came on in that last sort of 10-ish minutes or whatever it was, however long it was, just completely turned the tables on them, and they couldn't get the ball off of us.
Yeah, it was good to see. You know, ultimately we look at the game on Saturday and we go, we've done the double over Forest and we've done the double over Newcastle, two teams in which, you know, we've all said we've enjoyed watching play football this season. They play really, really good football, but we've managed to get the work done. Clearly, you know, it's yet another string to the Marco Silva is a genius bow. You know, that we managed to play teams like this, and you know, let's be honest, we made Forest look distinctly average on Saturday. I don't think they were great at all, but they were still pretty good. So it's one of those things that, you know, we're doing that, and I think that's partly down to some of the performances that we saw coming, and we'll talk about that in 2 seconds when we do our man of the matches and honourable mentions. But you know, I think as a whole, everyone who played on Saturday played really, really well, and it is really hard if you're going to pick anybody out to say they had a bad game. It's probably because you're being overly harsh rather than anything else. You know, that's pretty good. Let's end the pod, guys, how we always do. let's do some honourable mentions and man the matches. Drew, I'm going to start with you this week, mate. Give us a couple of honourable mentions and your man of the match, because it's a difficult one, I think, this week.
Yeah, I think I've got to have a nod to Marco Silva because he got it right. I thought the substitutes he made, I wasn't sure, but to be fair, each one of them played a crucial role. I mean, we've talked about Willian. I mean, obviously, we'd love to have seen Cess score, but Cess did float an absolutely gorgeous ball in over from the left-hand side, and I was ready to jump up because I could see what he was looking at, and he was looking at Muniz. But unfortunately, one of the Forest defenders got back and intercepted it and headed it away.
Yeah.
Was it? It was a cracking ball, and Cess he looks more like Cess every time he plays now. I strongly believe that my hunch about Silva rebuilding him physically and mentally was right. It's great to
As
see
soon as he
Harrison Reed.
bags, it's going to be scary.
Oh, mate, the roof's going to come off the place. It's great to see Harrison Reed back. You know, I do feel we've missed him. And I will say this, I've been one of Pereira's biggest critics, but him being dropped every time he comes on now, he shows a sense of urgency. And he really, really hustles. And it's great to see. Man of the match, well, statistically, it's probably Lukic. But, I mean, you could go through every one. I mean, Bassi was immense. I mean, I am frightened that someone with a brain in the Big Six is going to actually realise how good he is. I am genuinely frightened of that. But I'll stick to my guns and I will call it for Adama because it's probably the most complete game I've seen him play. And I'm talking offensively and I'm talking defensively and I'm talking in terms of work rate. And he was a difference maker. But if you said to me Bassi, if you said to me Lukic, I'm not going to say you're wrong because there wasn't a bad performance. Even the substitutes, none of them looked out of place. And I will say this now. I think even if you just started with them, and I know Willian would have never made it through 90 minutes, but the way they came on and the way Fulham still continued to dominate the game, I still fancied us to put in that sort of performance. So fair play, Silver. He called it brilliantly there. But yeah, long way of saying I'll go with Adama.
That's a fair enough shout, mate. A fair enough shout. Mozza, how about you, mate? Give us a couple of honourable mentions and your man of the match, please.
Yeah, my answer ain't really too different from Drew's. And as I always say at this part of the show, I'll keep it short and sweet. I'll start with my man of the match. Yeah, it's Adama for me. Work rate. We've been concerned, it's been said over the last couple of podcasts that we've done. Is he any good if he is in the starting lineup? Is he more of an impact player if he starts? Has he only got 60 minutes of a game in him? I think he's proven over the last few weeks that he can pretty much go the whole hog. I appreciate he was subbed off towards the end, but blimey, I want that geezer to get more goals. And it felt like in this game, his shots were pretty much on target, which is, again, another concern that we've had about him in the past. But he's my man of the match. An honourable mention, yeah, if it wasn't him, I'd have to say Lukic. I mean, how brilliant is it having him and Berg controlling that midfield in our lineup again? Solid, absolutely solid. So, yeah, Sasha Lukic for my honourable mention.
Yeah, it's a fair shout, mate. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. AJ, how about you, mate? Give us your honourable mentions and your man of the match, please.
Yeah, honourable mentions. I have to agree with Calvin Bassi. We're very, very fortunate that Van Dijk plays on the left side of centre back because, frankly, if he played on the right side of centre back, I couldn't imagine a Liverpool side with Bassi and Van Dijk. It'd be frightening. On other honourable mentions, Castagno and Anderson's partnership. They seem to have been told to talk to each other a lot more. They were a lot more vocal throughout the game, which was good to see. Frankly, if you don't understand each other on the pitch without talking, then talk. So I can't complain about it in the slightest. Sander Berge gets a nod for me as an honourable mention because, frankly, he's gone under the radar as a silent assassin in the last fixture. But my man of the match, without question, without shadow of a doubt, and he was robbed of the official man of the match award, is Sasha Lukic. He was beyond immense. I appreciate Adama was incredibly offensive and did a brilliant job, and I won't knock him for his performance. But Sasha made it look like there was no Nottingham Forest midfield at all. I can't do anything other than say that he was beyond immense, and the however much we paid for him, 4 million from Torino, was an absolute 10. Whatever, yeah, even that, even 10 million from Torino was an absolute steal. We've robbed them blind.
Yeah, no, it's a fair shout. To be fair, I think it's a very close one. The man of the match for Saturday. We all know how much I love Calvin Bassey. It's not even funny how much of a fanboy I am about him. We all know it. There may have been some jokey text sent around the group chat after he scored on Saturday. Yeah, like it is what it is. Love him. Great to see the performance we got out of him on Saturday. Sasha Lukic again for me. I cannot believe the player that Sasha Lukic is now is the same player that we saw the first 3 or 4 times he played for Fulham. Because he came in and he looked nervous and he looked like he was maybe a bit incomplete, maybe been playing in Italy a bit too long and was slow and turgid. But my God, what a player he is! On Saturday, he was superb. Like literally everything he did was absolutely brilliant, and he did the whole thing when a whole 90 minutes playing to the level he plays at, making the tackles he made at, but in the corners and the set pieces he put in, didn't get yellow carded. For once, he managed to get through a game where he played as intense as he always does, and he didn't get yellow carded as well, which makes it even better because it shows that the nous in his game is growing as well. He was superb, but for me, as much as I agree with you, AJ, in the sense of statistically he was outstanding, it has to be Adama for me for man of the match on Saturday. Not just because he was offensively great, but he covered more of that pitch than I've ever seen him do. He covered more of the pitch than ever. And quite frankly, if anyone goes back and watches that moment where he ran back 30 yards to get the ball and had his arm pulled, he deserves man of the match just for the face he pulls towards the fourth official as he's basically laughing because he's been pulled back and he's just like, what is this? Like, so, Adama for me deserves it, but it's exceptionally close. And it was a great team performance on Saturday. One of those ones that we all come out of that game going, this is the best Fulham have played, especially at home, in a very, very long time. And we wonder where those performances have been at home this season. And, it was superb. And if it's possible to give all, 14 men that represented Fulham on Saturday man of the match, I would. They were all great. And as Drew said, even the subs that came on looked more than comfortable. And it's exceptionally great to see that also includes includes Harrison Reed because he's been out for a while. We haven't seen it for a while, but when he came on, he didn't look like he'd lost. He didn't look like he was off pace or anything. He was brilliant. So great.
Does that mean the decision's down to the viewers then? Because we can't deal break.
Well, it's 3 against 1. I've gone Adama too. We've gone 3 against 1. But I'm very interested in who everyone thinks should be man of the match. So do please, let us know your thoughts on who you think should be man of the match. Subscribe and like to the channel, share it with your mates as well. Guys, thank you very much for joining me this week on the review of the Forest game on Saturday. It's been a pleasure to have all of you here. We will be back on Friday for our Palace preview, a game that I particularly am quite excited about, being a Croydon boy now. But we'll talk about that on Friday, and we'll see. Other than that, thanks very much, guys, and come on, you Whites. Have a good week.